Are you stuck in that cycle of trial and error where you just feel fatigue, low energy, low grade depression, and hopefully not worse, and just stuck? You try everything. You don't know what's going to work to make you feel better. And you're to the point where, okay, I'm 50, I'm aging, I'm in menopause, weight gain is supposed to happen, and I just don't feel like myself, but this is aging, so I'm stuck with it. And then you might even think, well, I guess I could just eat all the things because it isn't going to change, and those things kind of make you feel good in the moment. And why fight? Why fight the feelings? Why fight when you just feel exhausted from trying everything and just stuck in that cycle of trial and error? I was there most of my life, and I like to think that we could do whatever we put our minds to, because I never gave up looking for what would work for me. And when you think about things that are going wrong in our body, you just want to look beyond. We're aging. It's simply menopause. It's simply aging. And the medical system says, well, that just get used to it. Here's your antidepressant, here's an antioxidant, here's gabapentin, you just deal with the pain. What if you didn't have to deal with the pain? What if you could test, not guess, get clarity, find the hidden healing opportunities inside your body, and put your body back together again? Well, it's happening. I've done that. I'm living proof that you can lose weight, however much weight you want to lose. I've only lost 100. People have lost more. Maybe you only need 10 to 20 pounds of inflammatory fat. It just depends on where you're at. But we all get stuck in the trial of cycle and error. And it's not that you're, doing something wrong per se, or that you're bad at what you're doing or wrong at what you're doing. Life happens. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's hard. That's why we want to think, okay, so yeah, this is hard. What can I do? How can I be resourceful? We as humans and women, we're resourceful. We could do hard things. And as I was making notes and ready to come on this live, one of the things I was thinking about was, this is kind of like part 2 of the holistic low carb method, my initial video that I put out about this time last year. And I like to think that, sorry, I got a message. I like to be able to think that there's nothing that we can't figure out if we realize that we can look beyond what's happening in our body and actually look for what's going to help us feel better. Yes, I use low carb nutrition because that's going to solve 90% of your problem. And yes, I did say 90% of your problem. And if not 90%, most of it, because I still see a lot of the clients come through my program. They've been on a low carb diet. They're doing all the things, and it is helping. They're getting better health in some areas, but it's not low carb nutrition doesn't actually help you, get rid of H. pylori or reduce your bacteria if it's having a problem. Or in my case, I'll tell you what I'm going through and why I tested, so I could, stop the progression of disease in my body. When you know what's going on in your body, then you can actually have a goal plan, feel more positive, be proactive, and know that you're doing something to address it. So I've got a little bit of IBS because one of the issues that I've been going through is a metal detoxification. When I got my adrenals more balanced and my body feels safe to dump the metals, it is dumping the metals. And so that gave me some IBS and some diarrhea that I have been working on for a couple of years, and it comes and goes. And what has come in, and I ran my own GI map test and fluids IQ permeability and a metabolic panel, was to discover what's going on with my liver, my oxidation, my histamine, my zonulin levels, which are leaky gut and permeability, and then also total bile acids and the indican for the liver inflammation, along with all the gut markers that you can find on the GI map. And because of mercury can cause you to be more permeable, and cause more leaky gut. And so for me, how that's manifesting is, well, mercury and aluminum, I have both, but what I'm getting is the leaky gut impermeability. And the reason why this is a problem for my body, how this is manifesting in my body, is making me more sensitive to gluten in my diet, even though I don't eat gluten. And so there's cross-contamination that I have to be aware of or work to avoid being contaminated. And so this includes dairy and corn specifically. And so since I'm highly reactive to wheat and dairy, I have to make sure that in this situation that I'm having with an inflammatory response in my gut with elevated markers, I have to be more along the lines of careful like a celiac because of the inflammatory response that I've discovered via my GI map. So I was tired of being stuck here, and I wanted to see too, sometimes you forget to take care of yourself when you're helping other people. So I neglected to get my own GI map, and finally I did, and discovered that, there is inflammation and I need to address this. And so I am addressing it. I tested, and I'm not guessing. I'm going directly to the source of what's going on in my body so that I can correct it. And I think that's pretty cool that we can know what's happening to address it now and to not ignore it and then have your body break down and be disintegrating, falling apart as we get older and lose your lifespan. So instead of living into our 90s, what if we barely make it out of our 60s, 70s, or 80s, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen because it kind of depends on what's going on in our body and whether or not we address what's happening. So for me, going through this process, I can now bring in the targeted supplementation that I specifically needed that was maybe lacking that I was doing, and work through the process of my own protocol to help support this. So that's what I'm doing. And there's so many things that we can do. I did get H. pylori because when I had a weekend, I had more inflammation and bacteria come in with the H. pylori, which caused an additional inflammatory response in my body. And so I'm addressing all of that overgrowth and getting rid of the H. pylori. And it's almost gone because I've already retested once. So these are things that we can do to make sure that we take back control of our health and of our body. And so the way I look at testing and getting out of that cycle of trial and error is running 6 diagnostic labs to uncover what's going on in your body so that you can address it now while you're younger, so that you can age better, healthier, reclaim your health, and actually reverse your risk for disease ongoing if you actually become proactive in your health. And this is our self-care, ladies. I don't go to the medical system. I take care of my body at home, and I use supplementation to support my lifestyle as needed for what I'm going through. So there's stress as an entrepreneur that I need to balance, sleep that needs to be balanced. And let me tell you, I had a really good night's sleep last night, first in a week, because there's been some stress and just maybe not getting to bed soon enough. But I also didn't have I stopped taking melatonin, and I adjusted my hormones a little bit, so I was a little off. But boy, did I have a good night's sleep. And you know what? Just one night's sleep, and I'm having a better day with my memory, my mood, and my ability to want to get things done around the house. Crazy what sleep can do for your body. So if you're not sleeping, these are some of the things that we do with functional diagnostic nutrition. We focus on DRESS, which is diet, rest, exercise, stress, and supplementation. We need all of those. Yes, I do highly focus on low-carb nutrition, whether it's low-carb, keto, or carnivore. It depends on where you are, what you need, and what your labs show, because a lot of times people will come to me thinking they need to do carnivore, and maybe they started carnivore, but then they transition to keto because there's certain supplements or nutrients they need in their body for healing, or they've discovered that they feel fine with a selected few vegetables and they can tolerate that. So it all depends on where you are in your healing journey as well. And so right now for me, I have to be super strict. And so I'm back more to a carnivore, but I'm doing a little bit of greens, like in lettuces and stuff like that, and kimchis, because I can tolerate those. But because I have to keep wheat and dairy to extreme zero, I can't have really anything coming from a package or a box. I have to be very careful because I am trying to determine the elimination of the wheat cross contamination with that gluten protein that is in dairy and can be in corn products as well. And if you're using artificial sweeteners or keto sweeteners, they can have some corn in them. So I also had to take out powdered coffee, instant coffee, as well as ground coffee. So I bought a coffee bean grinder and regular mold-free tested purity coffee beans because I need to make sure that there's no gluten in my coffee. And we don't know sometimes where we're getting that cross-contamination because food is processed in machines that can be have gluten have gone in prior to it, and maybe if you're highly reactive like I am right now with my immune system being on elevation, we don't know exactly what we might be reacting to. So I'm trying to stop the inflammatory response to what I am having and to work with everything else that is going on that's causing the IBS. And so that's what I'm going through currently with my health so that I don't have to worry about it in my late 60s. Take care of it now, nip it in the bud, and support turning off the inflammation in my body, detoxing the metals that want to come out and making sure I bind them and get them out of my body, supporting the bacterial dysbiosis and getting rid of and killing off the ones that I don't want in there, and then repopulating the ones that I do want. So these are a lot of the things that I do when I work with my clients, and that's why it's so important what I do to help you get out of that cycle of trial and error and focus mainly on what needs to be done in your specific body, running labs that are going to look at your healing opportunities along with low carb diet to turn off the inflammation. That's what's really wonderful about how low carb nutrition works. So let me tell you about that a little bit more because that's what saved my life is low carb nutrition. I didn't do the labs in the very beginning. I was just trying to turn off the food noise, turn off the depression, get rid of the anxiety, and get my life back on track and lose the weight. You know, we always want that weight loss. So keto and low carb nutrition did that for me. It saved my life and gave me my brain back and helped me become a practitioner so that I can turn around and help you guys here. So that's my purpose and my mission is to help other women over 50 reclaim their health and lose weight naturally without medications so that you can feel good about your body and not lose the muscles in your face and your butt and keep the muscle, because if we don't have muscle, we're going to have skin that hangs everywhere in our body and you're going to be frail. We do not want sarcopenia going into our 50s and 60s, and because when we hit 70, you could just be standing around and then something just breaks and you fall down in the kitchen or out on the street. That's what we want to avoid. That's why we need to fix ourselves up in our 50s and 60s so that we can have a stronger 70s. And yes, nutrition is important, but as I'm seeing in the labs of the ladies I'm working with, you could have what you think is a good diet, but your insulin levels could still be too high, your protein levels could be too low, your fat could be too low. When I was working with Leslie, you can actually see her testimonies on YouTube. I don't quite have it, and it's on my Instagram right now, and I don't have it in my website yet. I'm without a computer for about 3 days. My keyboard's getting fixed, so I'm just on cell phone, and can't get into the website right now to make that correction. But poor Leslie, you know, she had a lot of pain and fatigue and depression and was stuck in that cycle of trial and error. And it was heartbreaking because she was just holding herself together with sheer willpower. She's a strong woman. And she's got the support of her husband, and he listened to me speak on Dr. Kilt's podcast and had her listen to it too. And so she booked a call with me, and they both listened to the call. And she threw, they went all in for her to get the healing that they were hoping she would get the healing. Well, she did. And it's really incredible to know that I can use functional diagnostic nutrition, diet, rest, exercise, stress, and supplementation tailored specifically to you via your lab work and low carb nutrition to actually pull somebody out of 16 years of depression, fatigue, and daily pain and headaches, because I could see what she needed to do. And then with my clinical experience, my lived experience, and understanding how all this works, because I do that with myself as well, we got her life back. And she joined the master's swim course. And it was interesting because I didn't know that this was something that she wanted to do when she was younger. And when her kids were younger, and she didn't have enough energy, not enough mitochondria energy, and she needed to save that energy for her family. And so she quit the swim team and stayed home. And that was one thing her daughter was reminding her of, which is so cool and so amazing that our daughters can hold us up and tell us, Mom, I'm so proud of you. You did everything that you needed to do to help us thrive. So things like that just tear me up and make me grateful that the pain that I went through even developed me into this purpose of helping people with the holistic low carb method and helping women over 50 get their health back. Because sometimes, you've heard the phrase, it takes a village, right, to raise a child. Well, we can't always see what needs to be done for ourselves, even myself included. I had to run the labs. I had to talk to several people. I had to write it all out and figure out what I needed to do for myself specifically. And it's taken me a couple of months to really dial it all in, because it's a lot for one person to keep on track. And that's why when you work with somebody who is right there for you 100% and in your back pocket, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And that's what's so exciting that I love about this, that we could get Leslie's life back on track. She's still got some detoxing to do. We always have detoxing to do. We live in a very toxic world. But if we know exactly what it is that we need to do because of the labs we worked, we don't have to say, you think you got a parasite. Everybody lives with parasite. We got parasites in us. But is that your main cause and concern? Do you have H. pylori as your main cause and concern? Some people have it, some people don't. Most people, 50% of my clients have it. 50% don't. What is it that we need to work on for your body? Why do you have pain? Why do you have depression? Where do you have that pain? What's going on in your body? Why are you fatigued? Sure, we're in menopause, and I'm going to look at your Dutch test and analyze your adrenal hormones and your progesterone and estrogen, as well as your detoxification and methylation, because you should not be putting yourself on estrogen, especially a la carte at some kind of store on the internet, when you haven't run a Dutch test and a GI map test to see whether you have any buildup of estrogen and whether you've got constipation and detoxification issues, because you don't want to throw fire on the flames if there's a problem here. Because if you're constipated, you're not detoxifying your estrogen and it could build up. And I've seen that on labs too, especially with a girl that did go and get her hormones first, thinking that everything she was going through was all hormone related. Sure, we have hormone related issues when we're over 50 and in menopause. The biggest change you could do, the best support you can give yourself, is to put yourself on a low carb diet. That's why I only work with women for low carb nutrition, because that's what works. And so that's who comes to me, is determined women who are ready to get on a low carb diet, want to dial it in, need that support to turn off that cravings in the evening, turn off all that food noise, and get organized to get the results you want to get in your body. You have the constipation or the diarrhea, we're going to address either one. Is your total bile acids low or high? We need to address that. If your liver's still stagnant, we need to address that. And so that kind of brings me to my client Nancy that I'm working with, and she's got her testimony up on the website, and it's also in Instagram and my stories and here on YouTube. But what I love about this determined woman in her 70s is that she's also working with her husband to get him healthy so they can have the best life that they have left together, healthy together, living an amazing life. And she went carnivore. She reversed her diabetes. And it's really interesting how she lost weight and did get health benefits. But that's where low-carb nutrition might stop. Because if there's fatty pancreas and pancreatic insufficiency, it takes a while to heal. The liver has to detox and takes a while to heal. Sometimes it doesn't heal just by changing your diet. Sometimes it does. It depends on how bad your liver and your bile acids are. And so all of these things we need to look at, how much are you reacting to leaky gut and things in your diet? And, are you having cross-contamination on issues that are happening? So there's still many things that we can do together to work on her liver and detoxification and correcting what we find in the labs for herself and supporting her adrenals, her cortisol levels, and getting her on progesterone and estrogen. There's many levels, many layers. 6 months is a really good amount of time to get a lot of this done. 3 months is not enough time to get it done. Trust me, I'm running into that. I got you for 3 months and we haven't done hormones yet. So there's a lot that I want to help you do. But there are many levels to working with me. If you don't want to do the labs, if money is super, super tight, I understand. I just have monthly subscription where we could just get together weekly and we could work on low-carb nutrition and do the first level, which is getting your diet under control and turning off the inflammation and getting your weight loss started. That's, is where I started, and that is super important. And then you layer in the rest, and we could add in one test at a time and just get it taken care of that way. That's something that we could also do. I love the fact that when we change and grow into ourselves, and in our 50s, we've been taking care of everybody else. Now it's time to take care of ourselves. And this is where we have the time to do it. And we tend to have more resources available to spend on ourselves as well. And so self-care does need to happen in the kitchen and happen at home, because we got to fix our food.